He is the internationally renowned former human rights defender, Ombudsman of the Republic of Armenia, Dr. Arman Tatoyan, the recipient of the 2021 ANCA Western Region Human Rights Champion Award. To introduce and moderate the Q&A with Dr. Tatoyan is our own ANCA Western Region Executive Director, Sarkis Balagyan. A native of Aleppo, Sarkis joined ANCA Western Region in May of this year and has been advocating and educating from day one. His previous work experiences include research management, project coordination and human rights advocacy at the Armenian National Institute, the Foreign Ministry of the Republic of Armenia, the Ministry of Diaspora of the Republic of Armenia, the Armenian Weekly USA for UNHCR, the Human Rights Watch Weekly, the Middle East and North Africa Division. He was a member of the ARF Eastern Region USA Centennial Committee that organized the 2015 conference in New York, as well as a board member of the Project 2015 initiative to commemorate the Armenian genocide in Istanbul on April 24, 2015. Most recently, Balagyan served as the Executive Director of Aleppo NGO in Yerevan, supporting refugees from Syria, Artsakh, and elsewhere. Mr. Balagyan is a co-author of the Human Rights Violation during the 44-day war in Artsakh, fact-finding report published recently in Yerevan, which painstakingly documents Azerbaijan's war crimes during the 2020 aggression and featured investigative reporting into Syrian mercenaries that fought for Azerbaijan during the Second Artsakh War. I invite ANCA Western Region Executive Director to introduce Dr. Tatoyan.
Thank you, Lena, for that very generous introduction. As Lena mentioned, Mr. Tatoyan, Dr. Tatoyan needs no introduction, not only in the diaspora, but also in Armenia for the extensive work he has done. First and foremost, as Armenia's human rights defender or the Ombudsman of the Republic of Armenia. A native of Yerevan, Professor Arman Tatoyan has served as Armenia's human rights defender and head of the National Prevention Mechanism from 2016 to 2022. Elected by Armenia's National Assembly. He also was an ad hoc judge at the European Court of Human Rights from 2016 to 2019. Previously, he served as Deputy Justice Minister of Armenia and Deputy Representative of Armenia at the European Court of Human Rights between 2013 and 2016. Between 2011 and 2013, he served his first mandate as member of the Council of Europe Committee for the Prevention of Torture, elected by the Committee of Ministers, then re-elected to the CPT in 2019. Professor Tatoyan was also Council of Europe, UN, OSCE International Expert on Border Security, Anti-Corruption and Torture Prevention. He was the advisor to the President of the Constitutional Court and to the Chairman of the Cessation Court's Criminal Chamber of Armenia. He has led judicial and security reforms for Armenia. Professor Tatoyan teaches law at the American University of Armenia and is a visiting professor at Yerevan State University. Last month, Dr. Tatoyan established the Center for Law and Justice, the Tatoyan Foundation. The newly formed organization with Tat Helm has already provided a submission to the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination of the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, the UN Human Rights. Additionally, the Tatoyan Foundation is currently preparing a special report on the ongoing state-sponsored hatred and institutional anti-Armenianism by Azerbaijan, which will be published online in the coming weeks. But beyond the very impressive and brief biography that I just presented of Dr. Tatoyan, I just want to say, especially in the aftermath of the 2020 conflict, people in Armenia, in Artsakh, as well as in the diaspora, were demoralized. People were devastated and did not have a clear plan as to where we were heading. But there were a few professionals on the ground in Armenia, and Dr. Tatoyan was one of them, as well as Yerishe Giragosyan and Levon Kevorkian, who will be part of the ICJ International Justice Panel later tonight, who put their heads down and kept working as professionals to document the crimes that Azerbaijan continued to perpetrate against the Armenian people of both Artsakh as well as in the border territories of Armenia. So the message that we can learn from the experience and the work ethic that Dr. Tatoyan and others have demonstrated in Armenia is this is not the time for slogans, this is not the time for grandiose speeches. This is the time to establish a strategy, a plan, be united, and be professionals, because the statehood of Armenia and the security and the right of self-determination of the people of Artsakh and their right for independence is at stake. So let's be professionals, let's have a plan, and work towards realizing the security of both of our homelands. Thank you. Dr. Tatoyan.
Dear compatriots, I'm very honored and privileged to be here and to have the opportunity to speak in front of you and to share with you ideas about the current situation, to present facts to you for your consideration. But before turning to my presentation, let me extend my deepest gratitude to the ANCA for Western region for inviting me to this important, crucial conference and for being always with us. When we were collecting evidence, documenting, verifying evidence, ANCA was always with us, and experts and lawyers from this community were always with us in analyzing, verifying, documenting, and submitting to international community. This has been irreplaceable for the entire work that was connected to the documentation of these genocidal policies and addressing the challenges. In my presentation, I will try to present the situation on the ground. And before turning to that, let me just say that both Armenia and Artsakh now are facing existential threats. Both Armenia and Artsakh are under attack. But I will mostly focus on Armenia, since Mr. Babayan is here, the Foreign Minister of Foreign Affairs of Artsakh, with whom we have excellent cooperation in many matters. And I will try to cover the part related to the Republic of Armenia. We have the presentation. Yeah, so thank you very much. What do we have now? This is first of all, as you know, that on September 13, in the early hours after midnight, Azerbaijani military started large-scale military aggression against the Republic of Armenia, targeting 3 provinces: Vayozdzor province, Syunik, and Gerakunik provinces. And what we have now, occupied territories of the Republic of Armenia. And the sovereign territory of the Republic of Armenia was attacked and was occupied, part of the territory. And there is also another factor that we have to take into account. This is the ongoing state-sponsored policy of the Republic of Azerbaijan and Turkey, of course, against the Republic of Armenia and Artsakh, generally against Armenians. And now what do we have? We have presence of Azerbaijani military in the occupied territories of Armenia, near villages and towns of Gerakunik and Syunik provinces, and already after the recent war in the Vayozdzor province. We have on the roads locations of Azerbaijani armed forces between the communities of Syunik. In this presentation, I will try to Here, I will try to present to you some evidence, illustrations on the maps, trying to cover the current, to present as comprehensive information as I can. And then later, of course, I will analyze also the situation related or deriving from this evidence. So what we have in Gevarkunik province. These are, whatever I'm going to present to you, these are the results of the fact-finding missions conducted by our team. This is the team of the Human Rights Defender of Armenia that served from 2016 and 2022, and the team of the Tatoyan, newly established Tatoyan Foundation Center for Law and Justice, in which we combined all the information gathered. So, this is part of the Gevarkunik province of Armenia. This is Sotk. You have heard probably many times about this village. This is village Kut, and this is village Verishozha. These are the main locations of Azerbaijani armed forces in Gevarkunik province. These are incursions of Azerbaijani military forces that took place in 2021 May. Why I'm presenting this to you? Because attacks of September, like 9 years, literally 11 days ago, were literally from these places as well. So they invaded the territory of Armenia and were from these territories also shelling and bombing our villages. First of all, on September 13, 3 main villages were under attack. The village Sotk, village Kut, and village Norabag. Later, we had also village Verishozha under heavy attacks. But closer to the end of the war, to the 15, Azerbaijani's military forces extended the geography of their shellings, covering already other villages, such as here Kutakan, here we have already Azad, here we have other villages such as Ayrk, and of course Sotk as well, which is literally ruined. This is the location of Azerbaijani military forces. This photo is taken by us, by our team, and we had here fact-finding mission. This is the photo taken in May 2021, immediately after the invasion or incursion of Azerbaijani military, the territory of Armenia. These people here are Azerbaijani armed soldiers. This is the cattle barn of an Armenian civilian. All of these territories are Republic of Armenia. We were standing right here and taking the photo from here exactly. And here we have water sources here where people get their water, even drinking water from here, these parts. A small water reservoir. In May already, 2021, Azerbaijani armed forces was being present here, was targeting almost all the time villages of Armenia. This is mostly Verishozha. This part is Verishozha village of Armenia, which I just showed to you. So this one. I'm sorry. Yeah, this exact part is Verishozha village. This one, again, is Verishozha. Again, a photo taken by us. We were physically present here. This tent here above, this is the military position of the Azerbaijani armed forces. And here, this is the house and the cattle barn of an Armenian border resident under Azerbaijani target. And when we were there, on that specific day, we were conducting our fact-finding mission. Azerbaijani military forces, having us under their target, all of a sudden started shootings, targeting us. So this we could experience ourselves, that whoever tries to approach, or at least to show up here, they were starting already their shootings. And I have to say that during the last war, recent war, they were conducting their shootings from these places, of course, as well.
This time, you can see now, these are the Azerbaijani locations. And here we have two cities, two towns, Varteniz and Martuni. You can see here Martuni is relatively far from the border. But this time, Azerbaijani military forces also hit Martuni, the town of Martuni. And Varteniz also was under attack, of course. So this means that their invasions and incursions inside the territory of Armenia, of course, are not an end in itself. They have strategic purpose. The strategic purpose is to target strategically Armenian civilian communities, because this war especially showed that their main target, these are not deliberate shellings. These are targeted shellings that they have with the aim to destroy Armenian communities, because in many cases we analyzed, and kilometers, military units, we do not have military units kilometers from the places, and these are pure civilian communities. So these are some photos I just decided to present to your attention from, this is the Sotk village. You can see that the entire village almost here is ruined, almost completely. Now we have another problem. So this was Gevarkunik province. Azerbaijani armed forces are also located on the roads that are connecting communities of Syunik. And these locations are so strategic that by their locations and already by blocking these roads, they caused already humanitarian and crisis situations for our villages and isolation problems. This is the road leading from Goris to Kapan. You can see here, this part is Karahunj, coming to the village Vorotan. You probably know that this village, there was an Azerbaijani location where they blocked, I will also show you the photo, where they blocked from this exact place any movement through this road. This part is the village Shurnukh, again well known, unfortunately, because of these invasions, and further leading to the town Kapan. This is you can see now, this is the house that belongs to an Armenian citizen. Here in this house, when Azerbaijani military first time appeared on this road, they forced Armenian civilians to leave this house. And we have, you can see below this photo, this is the cadastral certificate of the Armenian citizen, certifying that this house belongs to an Armenian. So when they forced the Armenian citizen to leave these territories, they already settled and they had already here their military location with the police, and other military servicemen. Later, this part was from here blocked. And of course, causing huge isolation and humanitarian problems to our villages. This is another location of Azerbaijani armed forces. This is already the road leading, this is near village Davidbek, leading to Kapan. These were the locations of Azerbaijani military. Again, the photos taken by us, the fact-finding mission. These are Azerbaijani soldiers. And now we have another invasion in the territory next to, not far from, or the territory of the Black Lake, or so-called Sevlij. Here you can see community Sisyan, Ishkhanasar, and other communities. This part is Black Lake. This is the border of Armenia, well, at least that was shown in Google. This is the Black Lake, or Sevlij. And here we have villages such as Khanatsa, Khoznavar. Again, this is the incursion of Azerbaijani military, and they were shooting and targeting our villages from these places as well. Specifically, I mean here, village Khanatsa, Khoznavar. This is already Terh community of the Republic of Armenia. And now this is the village Verishem. Here, these villages, or these houses in this village, also were very heavily targeted by the Azerbaijani military. This is an example. This is Khoznavar village that I just showed to you. And these are the locations of Azerbaijani armed forces, immediately above the village. And that is why their presence completely destroyed civil, normal life of people. No possibility to use pastures, no possibility to use arable lands, grasslands, no possibility even for them to earn their income for their families. It goes, of course, across all international standards, and we have been submitting this all over the time. Now, let me turn to Kapan community. So here I have 3 photos. First one is the airport of Kapan. Here you can see. These are Azerbaijani locations, literally next to the runways of the airport. So here is the airport. Here is the photo again taken by us during our fact-finding missions. You can see this is the airport and the territory of the airport, and these are Azerbaijani locations. And this is one of the locations in a like you can, here we have the closer format. And again, Azerbaijani locations are here, or everywhere, and that is why there is also another threat for our communities. So, this is Kapan. We already saw that this is the airport of Kapan. Here we have a very strategic road which takes from Kapan to Chakaten. You probably have heard about this village, Kapan-Chakaten road. This was the only road, basically, which was strategically connecting community Kapan with 5-6 villages of Armenia. Here, this road leads to Chakaten. This is the road. This is the continuation of the road. Here we have villages Shikahoch, Sarashen, Nerkinhand, Tsav. And during this war specifically, Shikahoch, Sarashen, Nerkinhand were targeted. Azerbaijani armed forces appeared on these roads and they blocked the roads. When they blocked the roads, Armenian government started to construct so-called alternative roads. Though facts were confirming at the time that there was the important target should have been removal of Azerbaijani armed forces from those places, rather constructing alternative roads, which we have been always highlighting this. Although I have to say, I don't know the exact reason, but these facts were not unfortunately taken into account. So the alternative so-called road was constructed, and during this war, Azerbaijani armed forces being located on these places, they targeted even ambulance vehicles. Because of this, it was not possible at all to use the road, and people had to use even road from, through forests, through hills, but there was no possibility to use the road. And having in mind that this road is the only strategic road connecting these villages with the city of Kapan. Now, this is again the results of our fact-finding missions. This is the road that I just presented to you, with these yellow marks. Here is the Azerbaijani armed location, unlawful location, of course. This is installed by them, so-called customs and border control points, which are now installed. They exist right now on this road, but this road it is not possible, of course, to use the road, and it is just blocked. Here you can see these red marks. This is the so-called alternative roads that was built by the government of Armenia. Our fact-finding missions were showing all the time that we were not recommending strongly to build the road here, because it was under the like several hundred meters, that this road would be as a target in case of any military aggression from the side of Azerbaijan. Again, you can see now that this is the main road, Azerbaijani customs and border so-called control points, and the so-called alternative road. No security here at all. Again, the same road, but here you can see already community Kapan, or city of Kapan, and another village, Geranush, and these roads, Azerbaijani military locations are here, so they easily have these communities as their targets. This is the alternative road that we were proposing to the government. I myself, together with my staff, we went through these forests. There was a road we were proposing for the government to take as basis. And we did it, our proposal was coming based on the recommendation of the community of Kapan. But again, unfortunately, this was not taken into account. Because according to our conclusion, this was safer, this road. Of course, there's no safety, because everything around is under the target of Azerbaijani armed forces. Now let me turn to the last village probably, Nerkinhand, within this presentation. Village Nerkinhand is the last one that I just presented to you along the road leading from Kapan to Chakaten village. Our fact-finding missions after the war, end of the 44-day war, confirmed that in October 2020, during the war, Azerbaijani military invaded the territory of Armenia from this place. This is some place in between two villages, Tsav and Nerkinhand. You can see now we have all the calculations. Again, everything was calculated independently by our staff members and the team. There was another incursion inside the territory of Armenia in this part in March this year already. Here you can see now that it is about 800 meters from this side, and here we have another incursion from this side. Unfortunately, Azerbaijani armed forces, of course, targeted Nerkinhand village during this recent war. And there is another case of incursion and invading Armenia because they advanced and now they are controlling territories that are more than this. These wars, or the Azerbaijani policies, brought not only loss of territories, but just the sovereignty, which is the most important thing, but also our citizens of Armenia. They had plenty of damages, complete violation of their rights, right to property, right to earn income for their families, right to privacy, and many more rights. So within this presentation, I just decided to present to your attention examples of two villages. Because of Azerbaijani incursions, we have 50 hectares of pasture, 500 hectares of pasture, 500 hectares of highfield, and 20 hectares of arable land. In Norabak village, we had 1,000 hectares of pasture, 200 hectares of highfield, and 25 hectares of arable lands. These are the lands that we lost. I'm meaning here only civilians, because these lands, according to the documentation that we collected, these are the lands that belong to Armenian citizens by the legal documentation, cadastral documentation. Together with communities, we even calculated in certain villages the number of, we can see now, the damages that were caused to civilians to the villages. And this is an example of a cadastral documentation of an Armenian civilian certifying that the houses in which now Azerbaijan military is located belong to Armenians. And even when we started to raise these issues, Azerbaijani authorities went to some international organizations saying that the Armenian side or Armenian human rights defender is not right, because these houses belong to us, since these territories belong to Azerbaijan, and since these documentation are issued by independent Armenian authorities, it means that Armenia did whatever they wanted. So they issued this fake kind of documentation. But what we did, we could find cadastral certificates or documentation that were issued by Soviet Armenian authorities. So this one, for example, is from Karahunch community, and according to this documentation, it was issued by Soviet Armenian authority. And consequently, Azerbaijani argumentation coming from the Azerbaijani side, of course, has no grounds. It's just groundless. Another thing, by invading territory of Armenia, Azerbaijani armed forces also caused, as I said, property damages to our compatriots. All the places that I just showed to you, of course, there are also pastures that are used by our villages, by our civilians. We have also the documentation. These are agreements that were signed between the civilians and the communities of renting these lands as pastures. And here we have their property rights, which are certified here, of course. Now, let me turn to the war of September 13 to 15, the recent one. This map, I downloaded it from took it from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, since it was officially approved. Now you can see what were the attacks, during the directions of attacks and the aggression during this recent war. Unfortunately, if before this war we had only 2 provinces which were under the invasion, or which were invaded by the Azerbaijani military, this time we have another province. This is Vayazor province, because Jermuk town, you already know that even less than 5 kilometers away from Jermuk, there are already Azerbaijani armed locations, which they invaded, and they advanced inside the territory of Armenia more than 7 kilometers, or about 7 kilometers. Now, the data collected by the newly established Tatoyan Foundation Center for Law and Justice, which we established and we continued our fact-finding missions. Of course, we enriched also all the documentation that I just presented to your attention, but within this foundation, we already collected evidence. Now we are verifying evidence of war crimes, including torture, mutilation, because these attacks are also accompanied with torture, mutilation, and other atrocities. A very important thing related to Azerbaijani occupation attacks, not only against Armenia but also Artsakh, of course, have very simple ground. This is the state-sponsored hatred and animosity propaganda and the genocidal policy, which is basically based on ethnic and religious grounds. This is the source, according to many people say that, especially during my meetings with international organizations, many international colleagues are raising the issues. They're asking always a question. Well, Mr. Tatoyan, but you know that these 2 people live together and animosity is not a good thing. Hatred is bad. So you have at some point to live together. Well, I'm saying yes. I appreciate this and I understand this. Peace is an absolute value for us, for the Armenian nation especially. But the thing is that Azerbaijani authorities will never stop this policy of hatred, the current authorities. Because our analysis show, and this is our conclusion, that this policy is the source for the political life of Azerbaijan. So consequently, they will never stop, because they have the factor of an external enemy, who are Armenians. By this, they distract attention of their own people from their own problems. And we have the evidence certifying all of these conclusions. Another thing, which is very important, all this hatred is so deeply rooted that it is sponsored by authorities and encouraged by cultural and other public figures. I can bring 1 or 2 examples. Azerbaijani authorities here are targeting the nation, human beings, people who are Armenians, who are Armenians, have the ethnic origin. By saying, I didn't intentionally put the words of this person here, but I just want to bring up several examples. There are statements saying that Armenians are people without moral values. These are people without brain. That Armenians are poisoned, and this poison comes from diaspora. And our task is to do everything so that there is no link or there is no connection with the diaspora, so that we can heal, let's say. We can treat Armenians this way, because the poison, as according to the words of the president of Azerbaijan, it hinders peace. Diaspora does not allow to establish peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Another thing, which is very important, Yes, and there is a very famous, or there are very famous expressions of the president of this country, which is a very deeply rooted policy, that Yerevan, Goycha, or Sevan Lake, as they call them, and this is according to their rhetorics, and Zangezur, or Sunik province, are historical lands of Azerbaijan, and our goal is to return to these places. I have to say that these are not just words. This is a very institutionalized policy inside the Azerbaijan. And this is not just rhetorics, but a long-standing policy in sport, culture, education, everywhere. This policy is also targeting, or is also very dangerous for even other countries as well, because it keeps the atmosphere of animosity between the two nations in the entire world. And we could observe here in America, you could observe during the war, Azerbaijan is attacking Armenian schools, setting fire to Armenian church. It is very apparent that this is governed and this is coordinated by the authorities. And even during my meetings with some authorities, I was saying that even Azerbaijan is using their diplomatic missions to spread hatred against Armenians. And I have another report based on evidence, because I was personally involved in many peace-building campaigns with Azerbaijan under the auspices of international organizations such as EU, such as Council of Europe. And during these closed meetings, open meetings, discussions, it was very clear that there is a fictitious peace building. There is the absence of honest motives. And this is only designed for the outside world as a curtain to show that we are white, we are innocent. But in reality, they have been always continuing this policy of Armenophobia and the genocidal policy. We have to be very careful with this. Even I have to say that in many cases, so-called international independent experts are more haters than even the authorities of Azerbaijan. It is very easy to feel. Now, and the last part of my presentation, we are currently collecting evidence of war crimes. So these are photo-video materials, verifying them, meaning not only torture, mutilation, atrocities, but also destruction of civilian communities. During 44-day war, we collected 287 videos and photos of torture and mutilation of Armenian soldiers and civilians. Within only these 2 days of war, we had, I think you know this number, we have more than 200 cases of death or killing Armenian soldiers. We have also casualties. When we compare war crimes or these atrocities and torture, which are always there, these are mandatory parts of Azerbaijani attacks. From the very moment when there is a physical contact, there is torture always. There is always mutilation. There is always taking people, prisoners of war, and also torturing them, filming them, and posting them either in through Telegram channels or on Facebook. Why they are doing this? Of course, to be seen as heroes, that they are they have these heroic acts, and to receive the praise and because the society is glorifying. And on the other hand, to terrorize Armenian community, to cause mental suffering to Armenian people. I can bring just 2 examples. I apologize for this, but I really want to bring 2 of them. Very recently, during this recent war, you know that we had 5 cases of, unfortunately, 5 military female soldiers, female military servicemen were killed. One of them is a very horrific case. Well, all of them, but one of them is particularly horrific and cruel. There's a video, Azerbaijani armed forces cut off the legs of the female soldier, then took out the eyes, put a stone in one of the eyes, cut off the finger, put it into the mouth of the lady. Then they tied her hands above her head, which signifies that she may have been alive before being tortured to death. And in the video, it is one can easily see how they're kicking this, our compatriot, the lady, teasing. with cynical behavior. In another case, which we received, I even could not publish. I was going to publish it, but this is,
You should.
this is, yeah, I will publish because I just received it 1 hour before the start of this conversation. They killed the soldier, filmed it, and sent the video and the photo through WhatsApp of the soldier to the wife of the soldier. We have the evidence. We have the objective evidence. We are already verifying it. And they also not only send the video and the photo through WhatsApp, but also posted it as a story in the section called story in the WhatsApp. Both the video and the photo. We have literally the same thing during the 44-day war, when Azerbaijanis beheaded one of our soldiers, then called the mother of the soldier and warned her that they are going very soon to post the head of the beheaded the son in this soldier's Instagram account. And they did it later. So why they're doing this? It is very apparent. First of all, they know that there is no punishment for them. There is total impunity, because their authorities are only praising this. And they know that they will be perceived as heroes in their society because it is so deeply rooted. It means also that these crimes are very often, not often, but sometimes I'm asked by international ambassadors, people, they're asking, Mr. Tatoyan, but you know that Azerbaijani side is saying that Armenians also committed certain crimes. Well, first of all, they're only, during this war, there were no crimes, of course, not even anything close to what is happening here. But during 44 days, there were like 2-3 videos published. And I was saying all the time to them that first of all, this is a response or a provocation to what you are doing. But most importantly, there's a big difference. These acts are not separate crimes, one from another. These are consequences of the single policy of authorities of Azerbaijan. These are parts of the single chain of these crimes. Because this policy is government-sponsored. In Armenia, you will never find a single government. Take the current government, the previous one. There is no government that could have Azerbaijanophobia as their policy. It is excluded. We have analyzed everything. Sometimes there may be some officials who can express some statements or say some words, but this is not a policy. And this is mostly in the response to the provocation that is being committed from the Azerbaijani side. And even we analyzed the words that are using Azerbaijani soldiers and the words that are using Azerbaijani authorities. We have similarities. These are similar words. It means that they are inspired by the wording, by the rhetorics that is used by their authorities. This is the driving force. I can bring one example, and by this I will finalize my presentation. There was a slogan during the war. We are driving Armenians like dogs. You probably remember this. It was used by all Azerbaijanis of the world. It was used by the president of Azerbaijan. It was very interesting to me why they are comparing us to these two dogs. Why they're saying that we're driving them like dogs, because there are other comparisons as well. For example, you probably know the case of beheading Armenian civilian and putting the head on the pig, for example. And all of a sudden we found a very old, it was published in 1911, old Russian-Turkish dictionary. And the word dog there means gavur. So what does it mean? It was very clear to me that the roots of this word are not like to cause simple, they are not using it like a simple insulting word. It has a hatred, right? Because it is based on religious hatred. These are very important factors that we have to take into account. And by the way, the same, of course, Artsakh is facing severe challenges. The same is against Armenia. But I have to say that this is the policy related to generally everything connected to Armenianism or to Armenians. And we have to be very careful when analyzing and presenting to the world what is happening in the reality. And of course, there was the culture heritage destruction, which our honorable representative from Artsakh presented. I just wanted to cover all this evidence, and again, through the evidence or through the facts, or with the help of these facts, to present to you what are the real causes of these destructions, of the violations. And I have the conviction that the current authorities of Azerbaijan definitely will not stop, because this is very, very deeply rooted policy, based on institutional grounds in their country. And that is why we have to be, I think, of course, there should be national solidarity, and we have to accept that we're fighting. We are facing these challenges against the entire nation. This is a challenge that faces the entire nation. And having said all of this, I just want to express my thankfulness for your attention, and I'm open for questions. If there are any questions.
Before I give a chance for people to write their questions,
He is the internationally renowned former human rights defender, ombudsman of the Republic of Armenia, Dr. Arman Tatoyan, the recipient of the 2021 ANCA Western Region Human Rights Champion Award. To introduce and moderate the Q&A with Dr. Tatoyan is our own ANCA Western Region Executive Director, Sarkis Balogyan. A native of Aleppo, Sarkis joined ANCA Western Region in May of this year and has been advocating and educating from day one. His previous work experiences include research management, project coordination and human rights advocacy at the Armenian National Institute, the Foreign Ministry of the Republic of Armenia, the Ministry of Diaspora of the Republic of Armenia, the Armenian Weekly USA for UNHCR, the Human Rights Watch Weekly, the Middle East and North Africa Division. He was a member of the ARF Eastern Region USA Centennial Committee that organized the 2015 conference in New York, as well as a board member of the Project 2015 initiative to commemorate the Armenian genocide in Istanbul on April 24, 2015. Most recently, Balogyan served as the Executive Director of Aleppo NGO in Yerevan, supporting refugees from Syria, Artsakh, and elsewhere. Mr. Balogyan is a co-author of the Human Rights Violation during the 44-day war in Artsakh, fact-finding report published recently in Yerevan, which painstakingly documents Azerbaijan's war crimes during the 2020 aggression and featured investigative reporting into Syrian mercenaries that fought for Azerbaijan during the Second Artsakh War. I invite ANCA Western Region Executive Director to introduce Dr. Tatoyan.
Thank you, Lena, for that very generous introduction. As Lena mentioned, Mr. Tatoyan, Dr. Tatoyan needs no introduction, not only in the diaspora, but also in Armenia for the extensive work he has done. First and foremost, as Armenia's human rights defender or the ombudsman of the Republic of Armenia. A native of Yerevan, Professor Arman Tatoyan has served as Armenia's human rights defender and head of the National Prevention Mechanism from 2016 to 2022. Elected by Armenia's National Assembly. He also was an ad hoc judge at the European Court of Human Rights from 2016 to 2019. Previously, he served as Deputy Justice Minister of Armenia and Deputy Representative of Armenia at the European Court of Human Rights between 2013 and 2016. Between 2011 and 2013, he served his first mandate as member of the Council of Europe Committee for the Prevention of Torture, elected by the Committee of Ministers, then re-elected to the CPT in 2019. Professor Tatoyan was also Council of Europe, UN, OSCE International Expert on Border Security, Anti-Corruption and Torture Prevention. He was the advisor to the President of the Constitutional Court and to the Chairman of the Cessation Court's Criminal Chamber of Armenia. He has led judicial and security reforms for Armenia. Professor Tatoyan teaches law at the American University of Armenia and is a visiting professor at Yerevan State University. Last month, Dr. Tatoyan established the Center for Law and Justice, the Tatoyan Foundation. The newly formed organization with Tatoyan at the helm has already provided a submission to the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination of the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, the UN Human Rights. Additionally, the Tatoyan Foundation is currently preparing a special report on the ongoing state-sponsored hatred and institutional anti-Armenianism by Azerbaijan, which will be published online in the coming weeks. But beyond the very impressive and brief biography that I just presented of Dr. Tatoyan, I just want to say, especially in the aftermath of the 2020 conflict, people in Armenia, in Artsakh, as well as in the diaspora, were demoralized. People were devastated and did not have a clear plan as to where we were heading. But there were a few professionals on the ground in Armenia, and Dr. Tatoyan was one of them, as well as Yerishe Giragosyan and Levon Kevorkian, who will be part of the ICJ International Justice Panel later tonight, who put their heads down and kept working as professionals to document the crimes that Azerbaijan continued to perpetrate against the Armenian people of both Artsakh as well as in the border territories of Armenia. So the message that we can learn from the experience and the work ethic that Dr. Tatoyan and others have demonstrated in Armenia is, this is not the time for slogans, this is not the time for grandiose speeches. This is the time to establish a strategy, a plan, be united, and be professionals, because the statehood of Armenia and the security and the right of self-determination of the people of Artsakh and their right for independence is at stake. So let's be professionals, let's have a plan, and work towards realizing the security of both of our homelands. Thank you. Dr. Tatoyan.